Then today we will learn about the history and evolution of computers. From a simple calculator, computers have become very powerful data processing machines in a very relatively short span of time. फ्रॉम सिंपल कैलकुलेटर, जैसे कि हम लोग आज देख रहे हैं कंप्यूटर छोटी सी डिवाइस मोबाइल डिवाइसेस में से आ गए हैं, लेकिन ये बड़े बड़े कमरों में पहले रखे जाते थे कंप्यूटर। तो ये सफ़र एक बड़े से बड़े कमरों से मोबाइल तक आने का सफ़र ये कैसे तय किया है, ये हमारे लिए जानना बहुत ज़रूरी है। बिकॉज हम यहाँ तक कैसे पहुँचे हैं ये हमें पता होना चाहिए, और इस हिस्ट्री से क्वेश्चन एग्ज़ाम में भी आते हैं। So we shall learn about the history and evolution of computers. The history of calculation or computation dates back to as old as ancient as 500 BC. Around 3000 years ago, humans used abacus, this device, to calculate for calculation. This is a wooden slate-like device which has some beads on it. Early humans used to make their calculations using this device. It is the ancient calculating device in the human history. Moving forward, in 1642, a man named Pascal invented Pascaline. This was a simple calculating machine. In the year 1834, analytical engine was invented. This machine was invented by a man named Charles Babbage. He is also known as the father of computer. This machine can calculate any type of calculations and store the result. It was a mechanical device. At that point of time, computer was not an electronic device. It was a purely mechanical device. In the year 1932, Alan Turing invented the Turing machine. It was also a mechanical device, and this machine uses punch cards for storing information. Punch cards are cards made of paper, hardened paper, and uses punch holes to represent information or machine language. Then comes the year 1945, when the first general purpose computer was invented, named ENIAC. It was the time of Second World War, and at that time, electronic numerator, integrator, and calculator was invented. Moving forward, this machine uses vacuum tubes for storing information. The size of this computer was as large as it requires a complete big size room and requires air conditioning. Always it produces very much heat and consumes very much power. In 1947, vacuum tubes are replaced by transistors. And sometimes year 1970, integrated circuit or IC was developed. This was proved as a revolutionary step in the world of computing, because millions of transistors can be packaged on a small chip, a semiconductor device. So large scale integration was done in transistors, and as a result computer became cheap and more efficient, and IT revolution has started. So this was a quick look in the history of computing. In the year 1965, a man named Gordon Moore gave Moore's law. Moore's law states that in every 2 years, number of transistors would double every 2 years, and cost will decrease. So Moore's law states that number of transistors will double every 2 years and cost will decrease in half. This law proved quite a reality, and large scale integration takes place, and more transistors were packed in integrated circuits. Then we study the generation of computers. One more hallmark step was taken in 1981 when first personal computer or PC was introduced by IBM. So, if in some exam, the examiner may ask, when was first personal computer introduced? It was introduced in 1981 by IBM. And in the year 1984, Apple introduced Macintosh. Today, we see MacBook Pro, MacBook Air. This is where it all started. In the year 1984, Apple released Macintosh, but it does not quite look as it looks nowadays. Advancement in the computing become more revolutionary by the introduction of GUI or graphical user interface. Earlier, computer was purely on command. There is no graphics, there is no mouse, no keyboard, no characters, no images. Computers were very boring. It was purely command prompted. If some of you have studied computers in your school and you are a 90s kid, you have probably know about DOS, the disk operating system. It was completely command line program or CUI, character user interface. But after the introduction of Microsoft Windows, which works purely on GUI, PC become more and more friendly for users. When we study about the history of computers, we talk about generations. So far, there are 5 generations of computers. So the first generation of computers was from 1940 to 1956. It was the start of computing. Computers were quite big. Their main component was vacuum tubes. They use vacuum tubes for storing data. They are very big, as we talked earlier, and they produce a lot of heat. They require a lot of electricity. Their main components are vacuum tubes and punch cards. They are very slow and they only use machine language, that is zeros and ones. So programming in that era was very cumbersome, as you are required to talk to the computer in the machine language, zeros and ones. They work on low level language only, machine language. Back then, their memory used to be 4000 bits. It is not byte, not megabytes, it is bits, 4000 bits. It is even smaller than 1 MB. So, most powerful computer of that time have this little amount of memory. Examples of first generation of computers are ENIAC and EDUAC. After this, we moved on to the second generation of computers. In this generation, computer became slightly faster and vacuum tubes are replaced by transistors. So in the first generation, the main component of computers were vacuum tube, but in the second generation, the main component was transistors. Second generation lasted from 1956 to 63. Main component was transistors. And for storing information at this time, magnetic tapes were used. Some of you may have seen VHS tapes. In our childhood, we have VCR, video cassette recorders, which used to have bigger cassettes that have a magnetic tape inside. So, such type of technology was used back then in the second generation of computers. They are slightly faster than the first generation, but they are very slow. And they have features like batch processing, and they use less energy in comparison to first generation. By then they use very more energy as compared to today, but in comparison to first generation, they are slightly smaller in size and use less energy than first generation of computers. Data input was provided by punch cards. Nowadays, we used devices like keyboard and mouse to input data to the computer, but back then there are no concept of keyboards. Punch cards were used. Some examples of this generation of computers were Honeywell and CDC. These were some computers of that age. IBM. These computers belong to the second generation of computers. Then, after this time, there comes the real revolution. Transistors were replaced by ICs or integrated circuits. And when computers start using integrated circuits, it is came to be known as the third generation of computers. So, in first generation of computer, the main component were vacuum tubes. In the second generation, vacuum tubes are replaced by transistors, and in the third generation, transistors are replaced by integrated circuits. This generation was lasted from 1964 to 71. We are talking about third generation or 3G of computers. It is not 3G of mobile devices, mobile technologies. It is about the computers. Integrated circuits made of semiconductor devices were used. Now, you know what is semiconductor? It is a material whose conductivity lies between that of a conductor and a semiconductor. By this time, large capacity of discs and magnetic tapes were used. Magnetic tapes were also in use these days. They are faster, more smaller and reliable systems, and They are easy to access. They support time sharing OS. These generation of computer support time sharing OS. The main data input devices of this generation are keyboard and mouse. So, in which generation keyboard and mouse were used for input devices? It is the third generation. Moving on to the fourth generation, which lasted from 1972 to 2010. This generation of computer, very large scale integration takes place. What I mean by integration is the integration of transistors on a single chip. More and more transistors with the improvement of technology can be packed in smaller size. So when the size of the computers becomes small, the cost of them decreases and their efficiency increases. At this time, high level programming languages were used. As we see in the first generation, the computer can be programmed only using machine language. In the second generation, assembly language were used, but during the time of the fourth generation, high level languages became common. High level languages are those which uses simple English terms or keywords as commands. For example, C, C++, and Java. So these languages belong to the fourth generation of computers. By this time, computers become so much affordable that common people may buy them for their home use, and there is no need of separate cooling. Earlier, computer produces so much heat that it require air conditioning at all times, but now computers are so small, so energy efficient, and they do not produce so much heat. Their cost becomes so less that even common person can afford using them for their home use and for educational purposes. And after that, there comes fifth generation. Fifth generation of computers. This generation was from 2010 to present. So we are in the fifth generation of computing. By this time, advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, neural networks, embedded systems, mobile computing, cloud computing, such advanced technologies are used and computer become a part of our daily life. In this generation, there is an ultra large scale integration, ULSI. More and more, far more number of transistors can be packed on the same size of chip compared to the fourth generation. i3, i5, i7, i9, these are the processors of this generation. The capacity of memory has reached to a new high at this point of time. Earlier, supercomputers used to have memories in MB. Now device in your pocket may have way large memory than the supercomputer of the earlier times. So this is how we have traveled in terms of technology in a very short span of time. This was the history and evolution of computers. So now, let us check your understanding by asking you a question that is asked in the computer operator grade A exam itself in 2013. The question was, and you have to answer it in the comments. What differentiates second and third generation of computers? And I hope that you may answer it very well. Option A, vacuum tubes. Option B, integrated circuit. Option C, AI, or option D, nanotechnology. Now, if you are focused during this session, you will be facing no difficulty in answering to this question. This question was asked in computer operator exam 2013. So, hope you understand. So, post your answer in the comment section. Till then, keep studying and keep practicing. Best of luck for your exam. And if you want to read something by yourself, then I will suggest you reading NCERT class 11 chapter 1, but not the whole chapter. You have to read only the portion, the subheading 1.3 related to the history and evolution of computers. So, as a homework, you need to read and every NCERT book is available free online. You just have to Google NCERT class 11 and subject name. So you have to study. It is better if you study NCERT class 11 chapter 1, the subheading related to the history and evolution of computers. Or you can also study at tutorialspoint.com the history of computer. So that is it for today. We shall see you tomorrow. Thank you.